All right, welcome back to the Comics Multiverse. Today, we will be talking about a new piece of news that we announced we posted about last Friday on the Comic Watch site. It's about Erasmus Fox Inc. and Pan-Universal Galactic Worldwide, and how they're kind of have a new collaboration with Marvel Comics, and I believe they also have a Kickstarter that they're doing, which is good because we like to cover Kickstarters too. So let me bring in my guest, John Barber, and we'll find out about him and both of them. How's it going, John?
Good. How are you?
Fine. So before we get talking about the two projects. Tell me a little bit about yourself, about like your history with comics and as a reader, and if there's anything professionally that you've done with them. That also.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I've read comics like ever since I was a little kid. I kind of got in reading GI Joe, basically, and then Transformers was like the first series I really started reading. Got super into Marvel comics. Got really into like the indie scene in the late '80s, early '90s, and that was kind of what I wanted to do. Late '90s, I was kind of like a early webcomics guy. I was a big I read Scott McCloud's Reinventing Comics, and which is a much less beloved book than Understanding Comics, but still a really important one to me. So I started playing around with kind of the form of comics and telling stories on there. And then I somewhere around 2003, I started working at Marvel as an assistant editor. Eventually became an editor. I worked on the Ultimate line. So I worked on like Ultimates 2, Ultimate Spider-Man. I edited the Dark Tower series, which is Stephen King, the first Marvel Zombies series. Bunch of stuff there. I was a Wolverine editor for a while. Then I left to pursue writing. Did a little bit of writing at IDW. I started writing some Transformers stuff there. Then my editor left, and I was like, I just gotten an ongoing series, and I was like, kind of, But he was a friend of mine from Marvel, Andy Schmidt, and he was like, well, what if, at IDW you can write and edit at the same time? Do you want to go for my job? So he, like I said, he was leaving, going to Hasbro. Actually, I applied for the job at IDW, got that. So I was an editor at IDW for almost 5 years. Left again to again do more writing. Wrote depending on how you count things, and I would give it to Simon, but depending on how you count things, I've either written the most or second most Transformers comics of anybody, behind Simon Furman or around Simon Furman. But I think Simon's got more in the future than I do, so it'll win no matter what. Simon's a good friend. I'm just like joking around. I'm in the Transformers Hall of Fame, like Michael Bay, Steven Spielberg, Weird Al Yankovic, and Bumblebee. So I was doing that for a while, I was continuing doing that, and then IDW kind of brought me back to be editor-in-chief. So I was editor-in-chief of IDW for, it was about 100 years, but it was all in the span of about 3 years, around when COVID hit. So I was there for a while, and then left there. On the way, I've written a bunch of other stuff, and then I met John Nee while I was at IDW that second time. He was the publisher of Marvel at the time. It was sort of funny because I pretty much knew everybody else at Marvel from my time there, right? I was still friends with everybody. I left under good circumstances and still talked to everybody. I wrote Doctor Strange for a few issues. I wrote Spidey. I wrote some series at Marvel. So I was still friends with everybody. John Nee was one guy I didn't know. But we kind of eventually hit it off. It was a little weird, I guess, but it definitely worked out. After IDW ended, he was one of the first people to reach out to me, and I started doing a little freelance work for him, and then I was offered the position at Erasmus Fox / PUG. And I've been doing that. We've kind of been working behind the scenes on a lot of stuff. We've been doing some like creative services jobs, stuff that like maybe you've seen us, maybe you haven't. But we finally are kind of getting out in the public. We launch it. We had a Kickstarter for a Zoop. I'm sorry, a Zoop for Conan Colossal Edition with like an artist
Okay, yeah,
book. Yeah,
I remember that it was part of our crowdfunding corner when we were on our, which we do a weekly feature of. So yeah,
cool. Yeah, and anybody that did follow that, we're just getting the intro together and the last few pieces. It should be going to the printer very shortly. Everything's all good with that. Sorry, if it's taken any longer than anticipated. It should still be late spring. Maybe very late spring, but late spring. And yeah, and then launching the excuse me, and then launching the Marvel 3D program. We've got some other stuff coming out with Marvel that we'll be announcing in the future. We kind of hinted at that in the press release, and then Signa, which I'm super excited about, which is the Kickstarter you mentioned. We can talk about that.
sure. So let's talk about the Marvel 3D project. Kind of, walk us through, what that is and how that kind of came about and what people should expect.
Yeah. Do I have? Where did I? Man, I was hoping I had my 3D glasses handy. I could pop them on and look really cool. Yeah. So no, we're doing some key back issues of of Marvel comics, like old issues in full color but converted to classic red blue 3D. I think Marvel had maybe done a couple of them in the past, I guess, several years ago. But we're launching with New Mutants '98. This is the first appearance of Deadpool. I hear he has a movie coming out, so hopefully we'll the idea is to have that out in stores by then. And yeah, we've got we've probably we'll be doing some more Deadpool. What else? We've got I think we talked about everything on there, right? We've got I just don't know if this is exciting news, but we're doing the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont X-Men #1 in 3D, including the gatefold. We've got plans to do a bunch of other ones too. So we've got a full roster. The idea is we should be coming out a little quicker than bi-monthly. I think we'll be bi-monthly overall, but the plan is to have a couple come out early on.
So what's the process of, preparing, these comics for 3D viewing?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. We work with Avalon Studios, which is Brian Haberlin's company. They're experts at doing 3D stuff in a lot of different formats and a lot of different styles. I've known them. I've gotten a chance to work with them for years on the coloring side of things, but never had a chance to work with them on 3D, obviously. But yeah, Marvel's got copies of all of their comics. For the most part, any key issues have been digitized on their end. So it's taking the digital files, and then, I mean, to be honest, Avalon works some sort of miracle, and I don't know what happens. Weirdly enough, I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know if he wants me talking about this. John Nee's first job in comics was working at a publisher called Blackthorn Comics, doing 3D conversion in the 1980s on, I don't know, they did like Gumby color or 3D comics, but they did like 3D Transformers, G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles, I think. So it's kind of all coming back home to roost. One of the, I mean, if you really want to, if this is a print technical cast, if you have a lot of people that are really into K-tones and things like that, that does present a problem sometimes, is that when you get into a certain era of Marvel comics, well, up until, like, let's say 1991 or so, 1990 or so, any Marvel comic that you had, the line art was printed in black, and then all the colors were cyan, magenta, and yellow. There was no black in the colors, right? And it was really limited color palettes of what you could use. Around 1990, 91, they started doing more deluxe format books, and some of those allowed you to have the black tones, which they call K-tones for key color. So that's cool. So it had more colors available. The problem is when they printed it, they'd use film to burn negatives or to burn printing plates, right? So all the black little dots when you go in really close in the comic and you see little dots that they use to print it, all of those are on the black printing plate or the black film. So today, if you go in and anything pre 1990, if you want to pull out those old files, it's super crisp and clear. They've gone back and recolored all of the interior art on it. I actually did that myself for a little while in between some of those jobs I was mentioning. But if it's one of those deluxe books, you wind up with this like really difficult thing where all of the black printing dots are printed on the same thing as all the line art. So if you were to like 3Dize the line art, you're going to 3Dize part of one of the color, but not the rest of that color, right? So like if your shirt was on, or my shirt, we're both wearing like pretty much black shirts. So, but they're not quite black, right? So it'd be like maybe a dark, maybe you'd have like a 50% black, 50% cyan, and then a little, magenta and yellow. It would make a kind of a dark gray. But part of that gray would be in 3D and the other part would be receding the other way. So it would be a absolute mess to try to do that. We ran into that on one particular comic that I've been thinking about trying to figure out how we can fix that. But other than that, it's good. That's more than you wanted to know.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's pretty cool because, I mean, I've always enjoyed 3D comics, and if nothing else, for like, I don't know if this is the right word for the cheese factor, I guess, cheesy factor of, just everything. But it's interesting how you can take something that's already been, made, and form it into something a little bit new for people.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a kitsch value to it, like but there is also something, sort of. I mean, I think we joked about it in the solicit, but I was joking with Rob even that like Rob Liefeld's art already practically jumps off the page. Now it really is going to, like some of the stuff's really cool to look at and see that stuff kind of, kind of popping out. It lets you look at. Lets you look at some of those comics that maybe you've seen a lot of times before, and lets you see them in kind of literally a different light, with the little things over your eyes. But yeah, no, it's it's fun. It's good. It's a fun way to look at some comics that you've probably read before. I wouldn't want to read every comic that way, but it's fun.
So let's kind of switch gears over to the Kickstarter right now. Kind of tell us about this Kickstarter, what it's about, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so it's called Signa. It's a comic I'm writing. Kind of co-plotted with the artist and co-creator Andrew Lee Griffith. Andrew Lee Griffith. I don't know how I didn't say his name right. I've known him for 100 years. He and I have been working together on, like, we met on one of the first Transformers books I did. It was one of the first ones he did too. It was our first, for both of us, it was like a real early limited series we did. And then we worked on an ongoing series called Robots in Disguise, that later turned into just being called Transformers. And we've just been friends ever since. Probably right when we started talking about, well, we should do a create our own comic someday. And it took about, I don't know, 14 years, something really crazy to actually get to the point where we did it. But the premise is that we're a couple hundred years in the future. And in this future, 100 years ago, a war with these sort of renegade mining robots from the outer solar system, human built, but sent out to the outer solar system, devastated Earth, but then also caused the sun to go turn into a red giant, billions of years before it should have, under mysterious circumstances. So now we're dealing with like the grandparents of the people who were in that war, and the grandchildren of the people who were in that war, and they're kind of the last generation of humanity by all signs. There's no interstellar travel, or I mean, you can shoot yourself off toward another star, but it's going to take 20 years or 50 years minimum to get there, and you don't know what you're going to find anyway. So once this sun kind of expands a little further, there's really nowhere else for people to go. And what happens is a young scavenger named Ketna Vora, she finds a old war mech from the war that, first of all, talks to her, which wasn't what she was expecting. And then secondly, it kind of hints that it might have a chance to save the solar system. The question is, save it for who and why? But what are Signa's motivations? And that's our series. We're excited about it. It's a lot of mecha action. I think if you're a fan of Transformers, Star Wars, The Expanse, like that kind of stuff, it hopefully will hit some of the right notes for you. But yeah, it's super exciting. Yeah, for us.
Is this your first experience with Kickstarter, or have you done other crowdfunding projects? Well, obviously you did the one with Zoop, but this is with Kickstarter. So you mean knowing that there's a difference between the two platforms.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and even on the Zoop one, like, I mean, we as a company did that, and I was, involved, but this is different because it's like it's still through, through PUG, but it's like, it's our comic, you know what I mean? Like it's a different thing when it's kickstarting something for yourself. I've never done that before, so it's one of those things that it's the same thing of like going from editing comics to writing comics, which is that like all the lessons just kind of go out the window, and you're like, oh, what if we did this? And you're like, well, no, you literally said that was a bad idea to other people. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I did, but it seems like a good idea now. But luckily, we've got like a lot of our editor Mason Rabinowitz has done a lot of Kickstarters, and our publisher Nate Murray used to run IDW Limited, or used to work, run the Kickstarters for IDW Limited back in the day. So he's done a lot of big Kickstarters. So we've got people helping us that really know what they're doing, which is really important. But it's still the nerve-wracking part of it, like the night before it goes up, of like, what if we picked everything wrong, and what if they just hate it? Like what if everybody, what if nobody likes the format or anything? But fortunately, that so far that hasn't been the case, I guess. And we're actually doing it. Speaking of format, we're doing it in this kind of cool hardcover format. It's like it's basically a double-sized issue, or close to a double-sized issue. It'll be 48 pages interior, not all of it comics. It'll be some background material and cool stuff built into it. But with this kind of nice, I don't know, hardcover, like actual permanent feeling format. So I'm excited about that. That seems cool. But it was another one of like, will people hate that? Like, what if they don't like that?
Well, what are you offering people, to support the campaign?
Yeah. Let me call it up and make sure I don't forget anything. But yeah, what are we doing? We've got sorry, I backed to Kickstarter earlier, and that was what popped up. So we've got 4 like main covers. One is the one by Andrew Griffith. We've got an Alex Milne cover. He's a Transformers legend, really great Transformers artist. Chrissy Zulo did a really cool, cute one with a dog character who's going to be in the series later on. And Tom Scioli did a cover. I worked with Tom on a Transformers G.I. Joe series a long time ago. Then we've also got, speaking of 3D,
one of my favorites.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I've interviewed Tom a couple times, and he's a really nice guy.
Tom is a super nice guy. Yeah. I really like Tom. Then we also have a 3D version of Tom's cover. Speaking of 3D, because his cover is just it's awesome. It's this kind of hand coming right at you. And so far we're inches away from a stretch goal of some bookmarks, which probably isn't the most exciting thing, but it's still pretty cool. You can, I think did we reopen? Yeah, we brought back, you can appear in a future issue of Signa. We sold out of those, but added a couple more. I will review your script or portfolio at a certain level. Andrew will do a sketch at a certain level. For the super hardcore Transformers fans, you can get the original pitch that we did for Robots in Disguise, plus a call with Andrew and I, plus an original, what does it have? It has an original sketch from Andrew, one of the original concept sketches. And I'll print out and sign and annotate the original pitch, maybe put some little notes on it and stuff.
I forgot to ask you, is this a mini series that you guys are doing to begin with?
Yeah. So the idea is this is the story is a 6-issue series. We definitely have a larger game plan that we'd like to get to, assuming people like the series, but we're pretty locked into the 6 issues. So that's
Okay.
And I mean, the issue 1 is completely done, the comics part of it. And we're well into issue 2, and we've got the whole thing plotted out, obviously. But Andrew just wrapped up a Godzilla one shot, or we'd be even further along. But you can't pass up Godzilla when that comes at you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have some time to play 5 questions?
Absolutely.
All right. Question number 1. You've mentioned how you've done a lot of Transformers work. Do you have a favorite Autobot and a favorite Decepticon?
Yeah. My favorite Autobot is Prowl.
Mm-hmm.
He's the for anybody that doesn't know, he's like one of the original ones. He's a police car. Yeah. I was honestly not only an adult but professionally working on Transformers before I realized he was not actually one of the main characters of the animated series when I was a kid. Like, I just loved that character. Like, it was the first one I got, and I just thought he was great. And then I didn't realize, he's actually not the main guy. Like, it's probably Optimus Prime or Bumblebee. But I like the portrayal of him, especially in the IDW comics where I was working on it, of being really cold and calculating, but having a moral center to him to some degree. So that was a lot of fun to work on. RC was my other big favorite Autobot. For Decepticons, it pretty definitely Starscream. I had a lot of fun writing Starscream when I was working on the series. And in the series that we did, the idea was that the war was over, the Autobots had won, but now they have to kind of win the peace. And Starscream became a politician and was very good at it. And it wasn't the sniveling secondary character that a lot of times he was. He was actually very good at having no moral center whatsoever, but just going and just having a drive for power, and rallying the other Decepticons behind him, and eventually getting caught up in his own machinations and all that. But yeah.
Okay. Question number 2. Who would you put on your personal Mount Rushmore of creators of comics?
Oh man. Oh geez. Okay. That's a good question. Well, Jack Kirby. That's an easy one. I've been on a huge Mobius kick lately. I've been reading like a lot of Mobius, so I think I might put Mobius on there. I would probably have to put Grant Morrison on there. He was always a big inspiration to me. Man, I'm gonna probably wind up with like the thing you do of having 4 white guys on there, and I don't mean to do that. It was like, man, there's so many people when I was a kid that's I like that there's more people in comics now, but and I'm also gonna just like forget somebody super key that I'm gonna seem like a total moron for saying that. Gosh, who would be who'd be another one? I mean, yeah, like Dave McKean was somebody that was really important to me. When he was like, especially in the mid 90s, when he was one of the first people using computers really interestingly and in a way that wasn't in a way that wasn't really sterile. You know, like his stuff had still had a lot of like life to it, even when he was doing the digital effects. Even the digital effects that don't hold up really well now, because now you see the Photoshop filter or whatever. But yeah, maybe that's it.
Okay.
It'd probably be different tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, that's why I say, your personal, it could be one day it could be, somebody, and next day
Yeah,
somebody else. Okay,
definitely.
question number three. All right, I strand you on a desert island. You can take 5 comic books with you. I will accept full runs or
Okay.
omnibuses.
Okay. Okay. Whew. Okay.
Yes, the tough questions here.
Yeah, man, you're really putting me on the spot. Can they all be stuff I worked on? No, I'm just kidding.
They can be anything.
Um, yeah, okay. So I think I would probably put Sandman on there.
Mhm.
That could probably get a lot of enjoyment out of that. That one goes on for a while and has a lot of different creators on there. Maybe Akira. Atomo should have been on my list. They should have been on my Mount Rushmore. That's who the last one should have been. But yeah, man, would I go manga heavy and pick Lone Wolf and Cub also? I might do that. I might do that. And oh goodness, this is just dead air. I got to be quicker at this. I gotta be quicker at this, huh? Vamping. How about? I'm really sweating here. I'm getting nervous about this. How about looking at my walls here? What about the Claremont run of X-Men?
Okay.
All right, that covers a lot of stuff I like too.
All right. Um, so I think we're up to question number 4. Is there a character you've worked on a lot of stuff, a lot of characters, a lot of properties? Is there a character or property that you haven't worked on that you would really like a chance to, make your mark on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, I mean, like I really like Fantastic Four and only ever worked on like Ultimate Fantastic Four. Um, like Batman is like a fascinating character. There's a lot to do with. I mean, the thing that's so fun with Batman is you can pull them apart so many different ways and do all these like cool limited series and different takes on them. But I would probably say Blackhawk, the DC World War II aviation comic.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's I would read it.
Yeah, no, cool.
You got the one at least.
Yes.
And question number 5. Is there anybody in the industry we can say currently, or heck, I'll even open up to people from the past that you would want to work with, would have liked to have worked with, would have
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Jack Kirby fan, but I don't know what I'd want to do with Jack Kirby. I just want to read Jack Kirby.
just
Uh,
hang out.
yeah, he's probably the person I would most want to hang out with because, by all accounts, he seems like an awesome guy. Um, and this is another one I should have thought of on my Mount Rushmore. Bill Sienkiewicz was probably the reason I got into comics. Like, I really, got into comics as a career, like, got into something that's what I wanted to do. And I've had a chance to work with him very tangentially and stuff. But that would be one that I would, I mean, like he's done a cover here and there, like that kind of thing, and stuff that I've worked on. But that he'd be somebody that it would really be something I'd like to work with and create something kind of cool with. Yeah. We'll go with Bill Sienkiewicz.
Okay. All right. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, can you kind of give us like a summary of maybe what PUG is doing or going
Yeah.
to the future plans, and then if you want to kind of give a nice um, shout out for the campaign and for
Yeah.
the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well, like John, I think John E put it something along the lines of, we're trying to make the coolest stuff we can for the best fans out there. I mean, I don't mean like that you have to reach a certain level of quality. I mean that everybody out there is the best fan out there. And so that that's kind of what we try to do is do something that's you maybe got a little like interesting spin on it. We want to make stuff that we want to have, like the be it a game, an art book, a comic book, and something that's got a lot of personality to it, and it's got that's got something exciting to offer for everybody. So that's what we'll be trying to do. You're kind of working with partners and maybe creating our own stuff, like with Signa, like with Andrew and I and Signa. But you're just trying to make cool stuff. Like that's kind of the idea, is making cool stuff with cool people for cool people. Again, not in a gatekeepery way with the cool people thing, because we're not, believe it or not, we're not that cool. But yeah, that, and then Signa. It's we're live right now. It's Signa. If you look for it on Kickstarter, you should be able to find it, and love for you to check it out. At the very least, we've got a cool trailer to check out, so maybe go see that. And you can follow me on Twitter at or whatever it is at the John Barber, and that's probably where I'm mostly at than anywhere else.
And I believe PUG is also on Twitter, right?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
LinkedIn has came up today when a lot of people started congratulating me in my new post from my new position that I've had for a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat, and I love your shirt.
Thanks. Oh, no, yeah, yours is good too.
But hopefully there's a lot of success with the 3D issues and the Kickstarter, and would love to have you back to chat. Once you continue doing the Kickstarters for the future issues.
Cool.
And we
Anytime.
can also check up on how things are going with the rest of PUG.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime, and we'll try to make sure we're on the right times next
Yes.
time.
All right. Well, again, have a great evening. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.